You're under arrest.
Let go
You
of
are
me.
under arrest.
Let go of me.
You are under arrest.
Let go of me.
Code 3 reverse.
Get out of
Alright, so I am not someone to automatically take sides with the police. Police that invade homes to basically steal under civil asset forfeiture laws. Police that invade homes because an energy bill is too high so they suspect the people of growing marijuana. The police that break into homes because people don't want to give up their property due to eminent domain. These are all things that I could not do in good conscience as a police officer, nor do I have any respect for police officers for doing the bidding of a malignant growth of a government that allows this nonsense. This situation that took place in Eugene, Oregon was not one of those cases in the slightest. Charles Landeros, a leader in the Antifa movement, was at his daughter's school to deal with an issue involving his ex-wife about where his daughter should go to school. He was asked to leave at a certain point, in which he refused to go. Police then asked him to leave, and he refused. He was asked to leave several more times, at which point the officers told him he was under arrest. A scuffle ensues, and Charles Landeros pulls a gun and fires at least 2 shots at the police officers. Now, before any of this footage was released, before any facts were known about the case, in true Covington MAGA hat kid fashion, leftists jump on the racist bandwagon. A day after this occurred, the Civil Liberties Defense Center comes out and says this: while people of color comprise 38.5% of the U.S. population, they make up 51.5% of those killed by police. In spite of this staggering statistic, there is no national database that police departments must submit a record to when they complete an investigation after an officer shoots a civilian. Despite law enforcement's willful ignorance in the last several years, there have been far too many headlines describing people of color being shot and killed by police. The lesson learned: the experience of dealing with police in America is different for whites and non-whites. Charlie was of mixed Filipino and Mexican descent." End quote. What is the problem with this gigantic leap to a false conclusion? Well, it's that race had absolutely nothing to do with this yet again. Perhaps it had something to do with what we didn't know at the time, which we later found out was that Charlie Landeros pulled a gun on the police and fired shots at them. When the Civil Liberties Defense Center says in response to this situation that, quote, "the experience of dealing with police in America is different for whites and non-whites," end quote, they really should have waited before saying something like that. Otherwise, are they trying to tell me that if a white person pulls a gun and fires at a police officer 3 feet away, that that white person would not have been killed also? Of course they would have. I know I would have. So this is just incoherent on their part. And who are these racist accusations coming from? Leftists, who generally are pretty big fans of gun control and gun-free zones in schools. Are they going to come out now and criticize Charles Landeros for not only having a loaded weapon on school grounds, but actually popping off the initial shots around a school, around children, around his own daughter? Look, Charlie Landeros' family came out and reiterated a lot of the same propaganda about racism playing a role in this. I give them a pass because they just lost a family member, and I know how terrible that is. No one thinks straight after that. But the fact that he initiated exchanging gunfire around kids is an inescapable red flag about who he was as a person, probably not a well-adjusted person, and that is something they are going to have to deal with. But instead of any of that, we just get a quick rush to judgment, screaming about racist cops. This is a complete mirror image of the Covington kids controversy in many ways. Before any facts are known, buzzwords about racism and xenophobia are thrown around. Then when actual video evidence emerges, it becomes clear as day that those accusations of racism come from a place of pure political bias and a strange yearning for racism to actually occur, because that will confirm their narrative that racism is still rife throughout society, which, although it does still exist certainly, it is by no means the catalyst for every negative situation that occurs. But in order to try and make themselves look relatively sane and capable of rational thought, organizations like Antifa and the Civil Liberties Defense Center need to presume racism in every single one of these cases and in every corner of the country. Unfortunately, when the reality is shown to the public, it just makes them look more foolish than they already did, which is an impressive feat in and of itself at this point. But that's all for now. Please like and subscribe. Many thanks to you all.